blown it up. Okay, well, it's just about 7 o'clock, so can we make a start? And I'll welcome everyone to the July meeting of the FES committee. Are there any apologies?
Nope, not received any.
No. Are there any declarations of interest? I have one which I will mention, but it's not a pecuniary interest, but I will mention it, and then everything's all above board. I am a trustee on behalf of this council on the Philip Wright Bowling Green Academy, and there is an item on the agenda related to that. But it's not a pecuniary interest, so I will be intending staying in the meeting. Moving on then, item 4, the minutes of the last meeting. Would anyone like to either make any comments, corrections to them, or move them and second them? Seconded. Are there any comments on the minutes? No, can we say those in favour then? Thank you. Public forum, there is no one here. There's no one requested to speak, and there's no one requested to speak online. Yep. No. Okay then. So, item 6, exclusion of public, which is just for the last item on the agenda, which is item 15 at the end. So if everyone's okay with that, we'll take that item at the end in private. Okay. Item 7, financial update. There's A, B and C. We can take all 3 together if you wish. Have you any comments on any of it, Gina, before?
Not really, other than to say like things like the events budget have we've spent quite a lot. We seem to have spent quite a lot, but it's just because we've committed everything in the system. So that's because of that. Neighbourhood plan, we are waiting for the next round of funding to be announced, so we should be able to apply for funding for that. Other than that, I don't think there's anything I need to highlight. I can actually confirm that we have got our second payment from Pendleborough Council for Precept. It's not on this, but we got it the other day.
Anyone, any comments on any of the finances anywhere?
Right. No, Gina's answered the events one, but presumably that's because we've already bought X, Y, and Z and paid X, Y, and Z.
And even if we haven't got invoices, we have put purchase orders in, so it commits it on the system. Yeah. So yeah.
You know, that is one of the problems. It does tend to. It's the right thing to do to put the committed ones in, because then you know exactly how much you've got left. But it does, when you look at it a quarter of the way through the year, it does look strange when you've spent 3/4 of your money, but you've actually committed it, but you haven't actually spent it at that stage, and it does throw a bit of a shadow over it.
The only other alternative is to have another column on there for split the. Forgot what the heading is now. Does it say committed? Yeah, it says commitments. So, well, no, it is split then, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
So it's just split.
It's split for FES and just normal for household.
So ignore that.
Are there any more comments on finances? Would someone like to move A, B and C? Can we move all three together? Yeah,
Yeah, I'll move them.
yeah, are they seconded? Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. Right. Well, there is another finance item while we're on finance. I think Howard knows a bit about it because I have spoken to Howard on phone. Some of our reserves are in a separate account away from the bankers that we use for the general run-of-the-mill day-to-day banking. And there are 4 signatories to it in total, one of which is no longer with us. And Gina, as the clerk, should be on it and she's not. So what I would like someone to move for me is that we delegate it to myself and Gina, along with any of the other signatories we need to contact to achieve it, that you delegate it to us to remove the signature that is no longer required on there and put Gina on in their place.
I'm quite happy to move that, but can I just get clarification? The 4 would be or ought to be. Now I'm doubting the question I'm going to say. Is it the chair of FES, chair of the council, or the vice chair of FES?
Chair of council.
Right. So I think we
can't name it as that on the thing. It has to be the person. Yeah.
No, I realise that, but I think in our regulations or somewhere it ought to say chair of FES, chair of the council, town clerk or RFO, presumably. Is it, or is it?
No, it's just one officer.
That's only 3 then.
The other is the former vice chair of FES.
That's the question. How many signatures have you got down at the moment to access the funds? Because I know I've worked with other organisations where you had to have 3 signatories, but you can actually have 5 signatories.
We
with a
have,
close sign.
the account can have up to 4, and we currently have 3 that are legitimately operational. And what I want to do is take the redundant one off and put Gina on. But if you want to alter more than that,
Well, I think we ought to set the precedent that it goes with the positions and then the name.
well, should we then put
Because-
it in the financial regs that on our external accounts, the signatories should be an chair of full council, chair of FES, and whatever you want, and then put it financial regs, and then we've got to stick to it.
Yes, yeah, and I think it should be.
That's the place it wants to go, isn't it? Not on this item, to name them as a post holder.
Yes, but in the meanwhile, we need to do the swap and get
Yes.
Gina on. So I'm quite happy to move that we grant the both of you the authority to sort that one out.
Unless you want to change it to, because we at the last meeting we juggled things about a bit, so that if Gina wasn't here, Steve could take her place. So unless you want to bite the bullet and say in financial regs and bring them to next meeting, that it's the chair of full council, chair of FES, the clerk and the finance officer. whatever.
Yeah, I think that 4 should cover it.
That does cover if someone happens to be not available.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. If we're making changes, we may as well do it how we
Now, if
want
that's
it
in
going
financial
forward.
regs, we've got to then stick to it. And if someone's no longer here or no longer a post holder, we automatically have to swap it.
Yes,
And it'll come,
I think that
it'll be,
I make an amendment to that one? As well as having the RFO, the financial officer, you've got your chair for the full council, chair for the FES. I would then say one other person from the FES. The reason being is if you require 3 signatories,
we only 2.
that is the question I asked earlier.
Yeah, it's 2.
Was how many signatures you
We
require?
can only have 4 anyway. That's the conditions of the account.
What I mean is when you sign a check or authorization, when I was with let's say another group, which was on the charity register, we had to have 3 signatures to release any funds. Not 2, but we had 3. But if you're saying you at the moment you've only got 2 signatures to authorize,
I actually thought it was 3 on this account.
I don't think it is.
because if it's 3, I would have said 5 as a minimum as signatories, so to say. If you need 3 signatures, have 5 signatories. That way, if somebody's on holiday or somebody's
If
away,
it's 3, we can't have 5 signatories because the account won't allow us to have it. That's the stipulation of the account. It's a maximum of 4.
Yeah, it is.
You
Yeah,
can have
same
a
as
maximum
two.
of 4 signatories.
I'd like to clarify how many signatures.
it's only one. It's only one account out of the
Yeah,
Yeah. it's
a
just-
lot, isn't it? So I think the thing is when bringing it before it comes back to the next FES with the amendment to the final regs, financial regs, we just clarify with. Is it skipped?
Yeah.
Since we opened it,
It's yeah, but I
we've
mean,
never had to sign for anything to draw anything out because it is actually the part of the reserves money. And the reason why, one of the reasons why it's at a different bank is it's a better interest rate. That's one. And secondly, it's not a good idea to have all your funds at one bank because if for any reason something happens to a bank and it shuts down, or there's a run-up bank, and there has been with various banks over years, and you can't get to your money, you're better with it in more than one place, so you can get to some of it anyway if you need it.
Even problems with like online access and things like that.
Yeah.
well, I was going to say after the 2008 crash, it was actually put in place then there'd be a limited amount of what would be covered if it did collapse or anything else. So I'm not arguing we don't have these in different places. I think it's a great idea because at least we've got more coverage to recover funds if something went down. It was just how many signatures you need to release funds that's what I was asking. But if you only need 4 signatories, then I agree. And I would second it'd be the chair of the FES,
Well,
chair of the
2 signatures opened it, and then we added 2 more. So if 2 can open it, I don't see how it can be 3.
quite simple. We go with the 4. If in the meanwhile we find that they've I mean, quite often happens they change their internal things, we can look at it when we come back to the financial regs, and if we need to add someone we can do. If not, we just go on as we are.
Just to clarify as well, whilst we're talking about that, the financial compensation scheme doesn't apply to us, being a council that has a precept of over a certain amount. So we don't get it.
Thank you.
So can we take a vote on that and then we can get it sorted out? Item 8, Colne Town Council audit update.
Right, we finally got our internal audit finished and got the report through, which you should find in front of you. So yeah, I'm happy to say there was no matters to bring to members' attention. And we got a clean audit again, so it's good. I can confirm that obviously on receipt of that, and obviously we signed the AGAR in the full council. So everything has now been sent to the external auditor. So within the deadline.
Can I just say a thought of thank you for all the hard work that you've obviously done this last year, and obviously the report to get it all done. And so I say a thought, thank you.
Think we minute that.
Gets harder every year. doesn't it?
Yeah, but as long as it keeps coming up, there are no items to bring to the attention of members. That's
Well, to be honest, out of the last 5 years audits, we've only had one bad one, and it was the first one we did out of the 5, and it was actually one that we had no control over. Someone else was running things, and there hasn't been a bad one since, and we've got to keep it like that. Right, item 9. Philip Wright Crown Green Bowling Academy lease extension.
You want to?
Well, if anyone- They hold a lease on where the bowling greens are, obviously, because it's a bowling academy. The gardens around it and the pavilion, which includes the cafe. And it was currently it's what's left of a 25-year lease. I think there's about 22 years still to run. I think it's about 3 years old. So I think there's about 22 years.
It goes to 2045.
Yeah, still to run. So in that sense, there's not really an urgency to extend it, other than the Bowls Academy would like to do a lot of work on the bowling. Well, they've done a lot of work on bowling greens, but they want to do a lot of work on the pavilion itself. Possibly even being ambitious to build a new one in place of the one that's there. Which would mean spending quite a lot of money, and a lot of it would be grant money from Sport England, and there's also funding available for such things as that Outlet Levelling Up Fund, and all sorts of places to get the funding from. But to get that sort of amounts of funding, you need to have a lease that runs for a minimum of 25 years. Else they won't consider giving you the lease. They won't. Nobody will give you £250,000 or £500,000 grant if you've only got a lease for 2 or 3 years, because what happens to their interest in the grant they've given you when the lease runs out? So what they would like to do is extend it so that it's over 25 years again. And I would suggest, this hasn't come from Bowling Academy themselves, it's just a figure in my head, but you can alter it if you wish. I would suggest it needs to be about 30 years, so that if over the next couple of years they start putting plans together, and so that they can then present the plans to various funding streams and try and get the funding in place, it will still have a minimum of 25 years over it when they take out the applications for the funding. So I would suggest it needs to be more like 30 or more. Now, I don't know whether you obviously ought to have a discussion about it now, and if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them, but I don't have all the answers at this stage.
If I've got one question, the lease at the moment, you say 25 years, there's 3 years have been used. Is there anything legally to stop or changing the lease? Is there anything there that's stopping us changing that? Going on from that, is there a limitation of how long we can actually put the lease for? So if there's nothing,
No,
there's nothing
No, we
stopping
can
us.
give a lease for 99 years if we
if
want.
we want to,
I mean, you've said you've used 3 already. I mean, you've given a figure of say 30 years. If I was to throw the figure of say 33 years, because you've used 3 already, it still gives you like 25 years plus that time onto
See-
that.
See, what happens is, it's like 3 years since they took over the lease, and they're planning what they want to do, which is the right thing to do, and then they've got to get some plans as to what they want to do with the building. And then they've got to get planning permission and get the grant. And years soon flow by, don't they? 3 years have gone, and
So if I
it's
was,
like,
that's what I'm saying, if I
finger.
just throw a figure then, say
Yeah.
even 37 years,
well, whatever.
because that gives you a termination date on a, where are we on 23, 33, 43, 53, 60. So
But for
So-
sort of money they'll need for that, with funding streams such as Sport England, you can't get it. They won't even look at your application unless there's, if it's a lot of money, unless there's 25 years on it. So, I mean, in your hands, I don't actually. I have an interest in it. It's not, as I said, I've no pecuniary interest. I don't even bowl on bowling greens because I'm too old to bowl now. So I don't even bowl on bowling green. And I've no financial interest in it. But I don't think I should vote on it, and I'm not going to do. But the lease can be extended. It's probably the cheapest way of doing it, because if we go the full hog and do a new lease and renew everything, there's a lot of work there and a lot of solicitors' fees, isn't there? And I think the cheapest way is to extend it.
I've just been adding numbers up in my head and thinking of. I'd have thought if we give them another 10 years to 2055, that should cover it easily. I would just the obvious thing would have been 2050 in the first thing, but that might just mean that we're in the situation of having to come back. We just want to add a couple of years. If we had 10 years now, that should cover it, which will give it that. Well, it then would have been equivalent to 35, wouldn't it?
that's why I was thinking of 2060, because like you say, if there's nothing you put forward yet, at least if there is anything that's holding up, it gives an option for grants, as well as say building permission, everything else, which if you don't go through the first couple of years, that's an idea that I've got for myself.
I don't think it makes much
I
difference.
don't think it may, as long as they have 25 years as they need.
I mean, we could just restart the clock, start the clock ticking again, but that wouldn't achieve anything,
No,
because
you've eaten into
it'd be a
it.
day short of 25 years, the day after you'd signed the lease. So it won't work,
Yeah.
would it? It's got to be longer than the 25. And
Whether it's 2050 or 26, sorry, 55 or 60, I don't think it makes.
It'll still be the
Well,
same process to actually go through
Yeah,
the documentation.
yeah, so we-
the documentation will cost the same no matter what you do.
What would maybe 60 is a better.
Yeah.
Because just think it, if we went, hang on, we're at 20.
2023.
We're at 23. We're 22 years left on the lease now. If we're adding 10, that gives it 32. So that gives it 7 years that gives it 7 years to sort out.
but it just gives them that extra length of time then if they do get it done.
But it runs out in 245 now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we gave 10 years on that, that'd make
Take
it
it to 255,
5.
which will be the same as them having an original. They've got 25 years and it runs out in
They'd have then had
45.
35. They'd have
it'd
had
be the
30
same as them starting with a 35
year lease. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have thought that was enough, but
Yeah, I would think so.
if we tell them that,
We can always do it again if it's needed.
yeah,
In years ahead. It's just the solicitor's expense of doing it again, isn't it?
Wow, yeah.
The other thing I was thinking of is if we're going to keep the bowling green, obviously we're going to keep it going as a growing concern. If we get more people using it, even especially the younger age, if you like, it's still going to be utilised. It's still going to be there. It's still going to be a pavilion. It's still going to be an area.
Used.
It's going to be used.
yes, yeah,
But I can agree with saying, if we just do like the 7 years to take it to 2055, if you say, right, take it up to 2060, for me, it just gives you that round figure of an end date. Because like say, the minimum you need is 25. I know there's no maximum. But unless you're thinking of actually closing down at 2055.
I mean, most bowling clubs have one, possibly two teams. So the maximum where they've got more than that now. It certainly, they've achieved a lot there. But I think that is probably reasonable. What we said, which would take it to 2055, wouldn't it?
yeah. That gives them 7 years.
Either.
It doesn't really
Yeah, so all it means is that lease instead of
doesn't really matter. Why not? Why not? Yeah, go with the 60. That gives them more than
Do that
enough
then.
time, provided there's nothing in there that.
I'm happy either way.
Yeah,
It's just that, like I say, we get to 2050 or 2053, they're going to be coming back and asking for extension on the lease. At least they've got that stability now.
well,
That's the way I'm looking at it.
Has Daryl been in and spoke to you, or has he just emailed?
He just emails.
Because from what I understand with it, all it needs is the expiry date of the lease changing. There's nothing else in the lease that either them or us are unhappy with, is there? Everything else is working, so
Well-
just leave it all alone and alter the date.
It's just purely the term.
yeah. Well, go for 60. Then we've covered every
Okay,
base, haven't we?
so are you moving that?
Well,
I'll
Andy
propose it.
moved it.
Are you seconding it?
I'll second
Those in favour? Thank you. Item 10, Alkin Courts Park, Lodge, Planters.
Yeah, so not so long ago, we did get some antisocial behaviour in the park, and the large planters at the entrance of the park were damaged. However, they weren't exactly in the best condition anyway. I think it was easy for someone to damage them, because one, I think basically the weight of the soil was pushing the wooden things out, and it was bowing, and yeah, so and then cracks start to appear, etc. So I think it was easy for them to damage. So we did look at the time, and our gardening contractor had been working with another firm with recycled plastic palisades that interlink, that would look very similar but would be a lot sturdier. They wouldn't rot and they would be difficult to damage.
They'd be.
Difficult to damage?
Oh, sorry. No, I thought. I don't know what I thought you said, but difficult to damage wasn't what I thought you said.
And they won't rot.
But yeah, well,
Yeah. So at the time, I thought it was probably quite a good idea to do, because they're only going to get in worse condition, the ones that are there. So and I would probably advise against replacing them with wooden ones again, because I think you're just going to get the same thing. I know some people don't like the look of recycled plastic, but to me, I mean, I've seen pictures online and well, they look fine to me. But obviously, it's
with the benches, you can't tell.
no,
It's
look-
very difficult to tell. And I assume, as well as being non-rotting, what have you, they're non-flammable as well.
yes. You could actually melt one, but you'd have to stay there for a long time.
Well, that's
You need a welding torch, wouldn't you? One of the problems with the existing ones is they're very big and they're quite high, because you know which they are.
yeah.
They're quite high, and when you've got all that compost and soil in it, and then you get a lot of wet weather, it's surprising how much weight's in there, and then it starts coming out like that. And if wood's starting going rotten at all, it's just no chance of holding it. Can we just be clear which two they are? Because there are three. We're not intending doing the one that is adjacent to the path where you go on to the bowling pavilion, because that one is planted and looked after by the Bowls Academy.
Right,
It
so
is the two at the
it's the-
entrance going into Park.
I was going to say it's not triangular, is it? But
Yeah.
But it's
It's
the-
the two at
the-
the main entrance.
the big
up
one,
to
yeah.
The bottom bit of the park. Yeah. And that's the reason why we put them there in the first place, because all water, there's a drainage problem on Park, all water runs down there, and all flower beds, they were always a pond, weren't they, rather than a flower bed. So we said, if we have a raised bed, it'll be up above water line. But they just collapse, and the proposal is to put these in.
I'm actually happy with using the recycled plastic, because that is the green wave. Actually, instead of letting it go to landfill, it's being reused for a purpose. I have absolutely no issues at all with what's being proposed.
Well, as daft as it seems, with the size of them, you'd probably have to cut two trees down to make two of them.
Yeah.
Which seems a shame, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, let's get on with it.
There is someone moving that. Seconded, those in favour?
We've all moved it in second. But how many two from four?
Item 11. Town hall maintenance.
Scaffolding's gone.
yes. So unfortunately, we did have an attempted break-in. Of the garage. So basically, you will have a quote in front of you, which is actually basically they just crowbarred and got in. It was alarmed. We did get an alert, and we did get here in good time. So luckily, they didn't actually get anything. But the door isn't as secure as it could be. So the idea is to replace with a more secure door, with like an anti-tamper lock on it, and then in front of that put a gate, so that they would have to get through that as well. So your gate, I think, is 2,248, is it?
Yeah, it's like a galvanized rotating gate.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, the only way you can stop people doing that, and even then it's difficult, you have to make it like Fort Knox, haven't you? It's a shame you've got to do it, but you've got to do it. It were obviously the quad they were going after, but they didn't get it.
Which suggests it's someone that's been watching what's gone in there.
Well,
I'm assuming that it's, well, it must be covered by our insurance, but how much would there must be an excess on it as well.
yes, there will be. I don't think it's a huge excess.
No. So this is just for information. So we say do it, and then any money and any, we may not end up paying 4,000 quid. We may end up paying 500 quid, or
It's likely that we will have
because
to pay, because it's obviously we're improving what was there
right, yeah, all right.
already.
We might get 1,000 quid back for
Yeah,
the
but
door.
we're not putting back like for like, or
Yeah,
we're
no,
putting
yeah,
better than-
yeah.
We don't want to put like for like.
No.
So
I'm quite happy that we do that, but I'm just, you said we were the alarm went off and we got here. Who's the we?
it was actually myself and Billy.
Right, just,
Well,
Was the police informed at all?
Yes.
Did they turn up at any time
Yes, they did actually. They came in about 10 minutes.
before you were here or after?
No, after, because we came to we do have false alarms. So we weren't actually sure. I said I was coming to site. Billy said she would meet me. But it was when we actually came to site, it was evident that that's what it was. An attempted break-in.
right, so
So we rang the police straight away. I then also rang one of the linesmen for some backup. Yeah,
I think as long as we are, not we, you are aware that, you know, you're more important than a quad bike, and
I know.
you know, so is Billy and whoever else turned up.
They were actually in the garage when we got here. But obviously we didn't.
No, okay.
it would have been foolish to go in and try and collar them, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, but we have managed to get the alarm back online. Unfortunately, though, they ripped off the external sounder. So yeah, you can't really hear it. Obviously, it does alert the security firm, and we get alerted. So it's it is being monitored.
Put the alarm further up the wall so they can't just get to it.
Yeah, the only problem is it's only
It's garage
it's
height.
a garage. It's not tall. So even if you put it on the roof, you can still get it.
They're not put it on to somewhere on the back of the town hall, so it's on a greater height, because obviously you've got remotes.
I'm not sure. You could ask.
It's probably more, that's probably more bother than it's worth, having many times been called out to alarms in Blackburn. Because I was a key holder. It's just, the only problem is if it keeps you know, it touching wood hasn't happened.
Yeah, no, it's
Regular.
only however, obviously we've had the quad for 2-3 years.
Yeah, so
And it's the first time it's happened. But obviously the idea is to just make it a lot more secure.
Hopefully now they've realised how difficult it is to actually get the quad once you've got in, they might not bother again.
yeah. Well, that the lot that tried it might not. Somebody else might.
If you are putting another barrier on the outside of the gate, would it be worth putting something on the inside as well? So if they do take the time to get for the first two, they're going to be hit with the third one.
Well, obviously the only thing is we need access to it all the time.
If the thing is, whoever's got the key holder, who's got legal access, you could get in. You could got the keys for the outside barrier, the internal barrier, and the gate and the door. It's just that if somebody's trying to break in, if they get through the outer one where there's no alarms, you break the second one. That's when the alarms go off. They're going to be hit with another one where they can't just drive out with a quad or.
In effect, there is.
What you don't want is that if you had an internal gate on the inside of the door, you don't want that opening inwards, because if you do, you lose storage space inside because it has to open inwards.
You can get the posts that come up,
No.
they drop down.
In effect, the quad back is not exactly screwed to the floor.
It's clamped.
It's clamped. Yeah. Bits of stuff. Right. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And because of, unless Gina can find elsewhere, once we've sorted out how much it's going to cost, I would suggest, because it's attached to the town hall, temporarily take it out of the town hall fund. Yeah. And then if there is an underspend somewhere else, what we can do is swapping about. Is that all there is on town hall maintenance?
Have we got a seconder for that? Just yeah.
Those in favour?
Yeah, no, that's
Item 12, rental property, number 2, Albert Road. You want to explain what the situation is with the building for a start before we go any further?
yeah. So one of our rental properties has recently become vacant because the business that was there has moved location. On going into the property, there are a number of issues with it. The front is a mess. The front window doesn't look particularly secure. There are certain elements that need to be stripped out that have been put in, i.e. display units and things like that. The back windows have branches growing through them. And there is no real facility there. There's no heating. Well, there is a lamp, a heat lamp there, which doesn't look particularly, yeah. And there's only a small kitchen area and an outside toilet. So I don't think if anyone's got staff, or if they're employing people, that they would expect them to go outside to the toilet. I don't think it's the best. So yeah, there's a number of issues that we need to look at, I think, before we re-let it. So this is the only quote that we managed to get for this meeting. Like I said, other companies did come, but some said they didn't have time to do the work, etc. But we will try, obviously, and get more quotes. There are some things on this quote that are nice to have, but maybe not that necessary. But I would suggest if we're going to do it, we may as well do it right first time, rather than maybe save things till a later date or whatever.
If it needs doing, which from the descriptions I've heard, it needs a certain amount doing before we could even let it. Again,
I think so.
I'm surprised there's probably, if it's investigated enough, there's bound to be some damp somewhere, because at one point I remember that because it's attached, it rained in from the town hall into it, so it needs doing, and as it is, if we were to try and let it, I think we'd probably be paying somebody to take it rather than them paying us. I do know that people have got all excited with the market thing, that they feel there's an empty shop we can, but it really, I don't think is in a fit state to be let for that.
I don't think you could use it for that condition. It's
No.
And it's the perfect time for us to do the work.
Yeah.
Now that it's become vacant. The sooner you do it, obviously, the sooner
we gain,
you get
yeah.
your recompense through.
because it is such a relatively large, I would say project, probably for Wimpy's or somebody it isn't, but I'm surprised that there's only one done it, so perhaps we just cast the net a little bit wider to get some comparisons. Because once they know that they're the only ones that I just think we ought to make sure we're getting the best value for it, and it's not going to get much worse if we don't do it for 2 or 3 months. I don't think so. I think we agree in principle that we need to do it, and that we cast our net, as I say, a bit wider to see if we can find somebody else that's willing to give us a price.
I mean, the idea is to obviously they are lifting the roof, but this is to incorporate the outside toilet inside.
Yeah, to make it you better go. It'll be other ways to
allow
from
access from inside.
The only thing I was going to point out is if we were to be landlord letting it out, we have a duty of care that it is fit for human use. But you've also got the Factories Act or the Health and Safety Act 1974, which has obviously been adapted. So like the heating, the lighting, the waterproofing, instead of saying if we do stages, it would be up to me to say, if we get somebody who can come in and do the lot in one go.
It's easy to do while it's empty as well.
It is, you don't have to worry about moving somebody out again to go back in. So I'd say, like the councillor said, is open the net a bit wider and get another couple if we can.
Could I make a suggestion, Jeannie? You might have already done it, I don't know. Obviously, we normally use or get a price off one contractor in particular, and I've mentioned his name earlier on, and unfortunately he's got a shed load of work to do now and he can't manage it. Maybe because he wouldn't want to quote at it because he can't do it, he's got too much work on at the moment, he might recommend someone else to us who could do the job.
Yeah.
Because it's no skin off his nose if he don't get it. If he says, I can't take it on, it's more than I can handle at the minute. So he may suggest someone else. I don't know. It's worth a try.
It's worth it, yeah. How good's Steve with the paintbrush? Nathan, sorry, I'm being facetious.
Well, I think we've got to get it done.
We need to do it, but we need to make sure that we get in the best value for the.
So What are we actually moving?
we move, we agree to
In principle, to have the job done.
done. We know we've got the quote we've got, but we spend a little bit of time either, like you said, talking to
Other people.
the other
Getting
people, then say,
recommendations.
oh, I know Charlie Farnsbarn's in Skipton that does it, but it's worth
It's worth a try.
a try.
And then if we're gonna, once we've got two prices, are we bringing it back or just delegating it to get it done? Bring up at cheapest, well, the best value one.
I think see
I'd say
when
best value, not necessarily the cheapest.
see when I think if it fits in with the cycle of meetings, it can come back. If it's going to fall in a gap, we delegate it to yourself I think the correct way is delegate it to the town clerk in consultation with the chairman of FES, I think is the
Yeah, okay.
official way.
So all those in favour of that? Thank you. Item for a future month's
Sorry,
agenda.
did we have a proposer in a second for that? How would you?
I
I would moved it,
I'm sure Glenda
propose
seconded it.
it?
I didn't nudge you.
and we've voted on it, it was unanimous. So item 13, items for a future month's agenda.
Well, financial regs is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just,
Yeah, we can do that modification to
Yeah.
financial regs and just cross all Ds with that, can't we? Mm. I suppose mainly there's just the general stuff that comes every month, which is the finance stuff, and there always seems to be something cropping up that needs to go on the FES agenda, so it'll probably have enough to it anyway.
Anyway, yeah,
And if it hasn't, we'll have an early night.
yeah, I am on leave.
Yes, at the next one, Gina will be on holiday. And Steve will be sat here.
oh, that was a sharp intake of breath.
Well, it's either that
No,
or let Gina have her holidays later and she won't be here for Blues, so you can
No,
take your choice.
no, people.
Yeah.
I know we joke about it, or people have it. People have holidays, they book holidays, and sooner or later they clash with
Yes.
things.
You won't be here for back race, either, will you?
No.
No.
Yeah, much to Nathan's horror.
Who's gonna butter up the sponsors?
Oh, that'd be Nathan's job, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything else to go on a future agenda. The date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 1st of August. So can I then move that we do exclude the public that we spoke about earlier in the meeting?